Welcome to News Now. The Nigerian army says its troops have arrested 4 members of terrorist sect Boko Haram in Gamboru, Borno State, northeast Nigeria. A statement by the army said the insurgents were arrested based on an information gathered from another suspected terrorist who was apprehended by the military. The army says the suspects were responsible for the planting of improvised explosive device along the main supply route of Nigerian troops. Nigeria has been battling Islamic sect Boko Haram for about 7 years now. The group, whose name means Western education is forbidden, has killed more than 20,000 people and displaced more than 2.4 million. However, in the past few months, the military has succeeded in beating back the Islamist militant sect and significantly reduced the amount of suicide attacks on innocent civilians in the northeast of the country. The National Emergency Management Agency says it has reunited more than 200 children affected by the Boko Haram insurgency with their parents. Saad Bello, the head of operations, Adamawa and Taraba office of the agency, in an interview with newsmen, said the successful reunification was conducted with the collaboration of the International Committee of the Red Cross under the Restoring Family Link program. He said the children, mostly between the ages of 5 and 12, were from Bama and Baga in Borno State. Nigeria's Ministry of Health has confirmed 2 fresh cases of wild polio virus, few weeks after celebrating 2 years without a single case. The cases have also been confirmed by the World Health Organization, with Isaac Adewale, Nigeria's Minister of Health, describing it as a big setback for the nation on health issues. Adewale, however, assured that everything would be done to halt the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, the ministry has partnered with the WHO, UNICEF, and partners of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative to begin an emergency polio immunization campaign in Borno State, where, of course, these cases have been reported. The UNICEF Chief of Communication, Duan Porter, in a statement said the campaign would commence in the accessible parts of the state. Lawyers to detained leader of the Independent People of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, say he is open to negotiations with the federal government. The lawyers who addressed a press briefing in Abuja on Friday, however, said such negotiations can only take place after he is released from incarceration. The lawyers also made it clear that he is not part of the bargaining chip of neither the Niger Delta Avengers nor the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta men, who have both said he should be released as part of their own negotiations with the federal government. Kanu is standing trial for treason, management of unlawful groups, smuggling of radio transmitters and firearms. Now, he had lost previous appeals to stop the trial. His trial resumes September 26, 2016. Speaker of Nigerian House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, says no member of the National Assembly can be investigated or charged to court for performing the constitutional responsibility of lawmaking, including budget scrutiny. Speaking on Thursday during a dialogue session with civil society groups in Abuja, Dogara said the 2016 budget had been controversial from the beginning, but it took dialogue, compromise, and consensus to produce a workable document. He maintained that the budget is just like any other bill, which must be subjected to normal legislative processes and scrutiny. The Speaker is currently facing allegations that he tried to pad the 2016 budget with as much as 40 billion naira. The allegations were leveled against him by the former chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Abdul Momin Jibrin. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has appealed to the media to project a positive image of Nigeria instead of echoing what he says is a misinformation about widespread of insecurity in the country. Receiving members of the Association of Tourism Practitioners of Nigeria who paid him a courtesy call in his office in Abuja, the minister urged the media to be wary of spreading misinformation. The minister was reacting to a statement by the U.S. Department of State, which warned its citizens to avoid traveling to 20 out of the 36 states in Nigeria. Mohammed says all states in the country are safe for travelers and urged tourists not to be fearful about their safety when visiting any part of the country. The states deemed insecure by the U.S. include Bauchi, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, Gombe, Imo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Niger, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, and Zamfara State. Now, that's according to the United States government. The Nigerian government has inaugurated a steering committee to oversee the concession of the eastern and western lines of the Nigerian Railway. Speaking at the inauguration of the committee, Vice President Yomi Osinbajo said the purpose of the committee is to create a one-stop shop for the concession and fast track of the process. The 20-man steering committee will be headed by the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi. The committee is to advise the National Council on Privatization on policy issues that impact on stakeholders' interests, advise the Bureau of Public Enterprises on efforts at improving stakeholders' relations, and also advise BPE and the Federal Ministry of Transportation on planning, coordination, and implementation of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. A report released by the National Human Rights Commission has indicted 118 persons of various electoral offenses during the 2007 and 2011 general elections in Nigeria. Among those indicted by the report are the former governor of Delta State, Emmanuel Uduaghan, former governor of Edo State, Professor Osarime Osumbo, a former acting governor of Kogi State, Clarence Obafemi, and a former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Maurice Iwu, and Senator Ayo Arishe. In the report, Ben Angbe, Executive Secretary of the Commission, said the organization had indictments ranging from the political class, individuals, and institutions for electoral offenses. Some of them are Independent National Electoral Commission and its officials in Anambra, Ebonyi, Delta, Katsina, Kogi, and Rivers States, the appeal court, election petition tribunals, and political parties such as the People's Democratic Party and the All Nigerian People's Party, ANPP. Angwe said those indicted will be further investigated and charged to the appropriate courts of the land. Well, we'll take a short break here, and News Now will be right back.
That was a very good business.
Yeah.
The furniture you brought was very perfect.
That's how we roll.
Then let me do you receipts.
Yeah. How much was it again?
1 million naira.
Okay, write 2.5.
Mbano. The deal was for 1 million naira now.
Okay, write 3 million. I'll give you 500.
Oh no, I just do business like that now. Yeah.
In that case, give me back my check. Let me go and look for someone that understand business.
Take.
Your loss. Rubbish.
It is only for incorruptible customers. What are you talking?
Now get out.
What kind of this?
You will just die.
No,
You will die.
That is the door. Now get out from here.
Rubbish.
Look, my people, make una only add money for original invoice price. That's not corruption. Say no, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has released the final list of candidates who will contest the Edo State governorship election. A statement by Augusta Ogakwo, secretary to the commission, revealed 19 candidates who have been cleared to contest the election. Nigeria's electoral body also confirmed that the candidate recognized from the main opposition party is Osagie Ize-Iyamu. That's of the PDP. Now, Ize-Iyamu is the candidate selected by the Ahmed McCarthy faction of the People's Democratic Party. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to ensuring the cleanup of Ogoniland and other parts of the Niger Delta region damaged by crude oil spillage. He disclosed this when he received a delegation of Ogoni leaders in Abuja. The delegation was led by the Benekeme of Thai Kingdom, King J.N.K. Giningwa. Last year, Amnesty International said Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, has fallen short of the UN's expert advice on oil spill, adding that the oil giants made 4 statements about cleanup and remediation of oil spills. It called on the government to be on top of its responsibility by confirming that oil-affected sites are properly cleaned up, advising that NOSDRA should be provided with greater capacities and resources which make for independent investigations and sanctions. President Buhari has already inaugurated a panel to oversee the cleanup exercise. Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole and former Governor of Cross River State Donald Duke have different stands over the poor performance of the economy and decline of the Naira against other currencies. Oshiomhole slammed the previous People's Democratic Party-led government, saying that the crass corruption which characterized that administration was responsible for the country's current economic crisis, while Duke took a swipe at the current APC government over the state of the nation.
Ordinarily, politicians ought to be active activists, advocating and articulating improvements in society. Sadly, politicians in our society today are mostly jobbers and budget padders, advocating for themselves and not society. They cleverly and surreptitiously apply the word change. I, of course, won't use that word because as a member of the PDP, or what's left of it, that word change, they do me one kind. However, improvement is constant. Not being satisfied with how society is and seeking to better it, we advocate improvement and not change. Don't forget, in 1966, we had a change, a violent one, from a democracy to military. So change is not always necessarily the way to go. As for the change, where we did so, only time will tell. Improvement, on the other hand, is universal and a constant pursuit.
You know, when we say these things, they don't appear so obvious. What I question, which I don't accept even now as a governor, is that you cannot, on the one hand, have a centralized system of compensation for state executives, from governors to commissioners to councillors to local government chairmen. Their pay is centrally determined, and the economy can afford that. That what the Lagos State Governor receives is what Edo State Governor is receiving, and that is what my brother used to receive. And if you were smart to pass it into pension, that is what you are still receiving. I mean the Governor Aliu of Niger State. So if we have a national compensation for all governors, how can those governors turn around to question the wisdom of having a national minimum wage? If there is a national wage structure for all governors, for all assemblymen, for all senators, for everyone. It is that selective application of the principle of federalism that I found extremely offensive and unacceptable. And even today, I remain firm that we must maintain a national minimum wage. We must find a way to incrementally adjust it to reflect the cost of living, and that it is the duty of government as employer and private sector employers to look for the resources to pay those they have hired to work, whether in private or public sector.
Nigeria's Naira hit an all-time low of 350.91 to the dollar on Friday in one interbank market trade. The Naira has been under persistent pressure as dollar scarcity continues to weigh on the local currency at both the parallel and interbank forex markets. Economic and financial experts say inadequate forex liquidity at the interbank market was taking a toll on the parallel market. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has warned commercial banks in the country against the violation of labour laws in the ongoing retrenchment of workers in the banking sector. Speaking at a meeting with stakeholders in the banking and finance sector, Ngige said the federal government would not tolerate flagrant disobedience of labour laws by any financial institution operating in the country.
We are not interested in harassing any bank, no. We are investors. I'm an investor in a bank. I have bank shares. I need dividends. But I don't need dividends at the blood or expense of other people, or the other people's blood. No, we don't need it. Or putting other people into unnecessary hardship. We have had sessions with you, and that's in the Senate. But as we talk, after this Senate session, we got reports that some banks are now shifted from using redundancy to using disciplinary procedures to remove workers, and using appraisals of non-performance to remove their staff. Again, we don't consider it proper. We feel we have to sit down with you, discuss the redundancy exercise procedure, discuss unionization of the worker, discuss union contracts that have been alleged here, and denial of right to collective bargaining agreements, CBA, which is their right.
Meanwhile, bank executives present at the meeting expressed gratitude at the efforts of the government and pledged to cooperate with the government to steer the sector away from financial troubles.
Our limitations on the option that in as much as we cannot impose staff on any bank, we can engage them in moral solution, and that is exactly what we are doing now. And we are looking a step further, and we are looking at how we can, not in terms of regulation, but in terms of knowing why they are actually sending staff. And we also come up with a circular for the banks. At least if they are going to disengage up to the number of staff, they should let us know. As they can still manage to keep some level of staff that we still make them profitable. We also note that in recent time, profits have really declined, basically, but the banking business is still profitable. If you look at the industry as a whole,
we think that they also need to look at the problem of some of their expenses in order to make this kind of adjustments. In addition, my colleague has mentioned that in spite of the unwholesome environment, the banks still manage to make profit. And we think that maybe for the moment they could as well make do with what they have now while they adjust their expenses going forward.
Shareholders, I should say, in the Nigerian capital market will soon begin to enjoy automated processing of dividends. This comes after the nation's regulatory body and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, said that from June 2017, no registrar will issue dividend warrants to investors in the capital market. At present, only 6,000 shareholders have registered on the new e-dividend platform. This was part of the new measures announced at the end of the quarterly Capital Market Committee meeting in Lagos. Our correspondent, Biola Ismail, has the details.
For more than 12 months now, the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has been driving a campaign for the registration of shareholders into the new e-dividend system, believing the move would deepen the market and ensure more participation of retail investors. But the response so far has been poor, with only 6,000 out of millions of shareholders registered on the platform. The man at the helm of the SEC now says shareholders, registrars and stockbrokers now have until June 2017 to comply or risk losing on their investments.
The issue of unclaimed dividend in Nigeria. Luckily enough, the trend is going down now. We also agree with the registrars that anybody that registered for the e-dividend and they actually realize that there are some unclaimed dividend they have not declared, they have no claim, that unclaimed dividend will now be paid directly into the client's account. So it is very advantageous. I'm sure some of us have unclaimed dividend that we have no claim. So by the time you register for the e-dividend and the registrars realize that there are unclaimed dividend of 3-4 years that you actually have no claim, apart from crediting that dividend for you, they will also credit all the accrued dividend that investor has not collected.
The Commission also wants the National Assembly to amend the provision of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, to give room for more tax concessions so that multinationals will be lured to list on the exchange. Apart from converting incentives that will encourage companies doing business in Nigeria to list their shares on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the committee said there was need to amend some laws on the capital market and corporate affairs in order to attract investors to the capital market and retain them.
We will continue at the level of NIPS to encourage the banks to do the needful. And like I said, feedback from the investors are very, very important. If we don't continue to make a scapegoat of people that are encumbering our processes of doing things right in this country, we'll continue to perpetrate evil acts.
We were all charged to go back, tell our staffs and other members in the industry, in our trade groups, to ask ourselves to go to the platform and register. If we do so, these 6,000 will rise up to more than 500,000 within a very short period of time.
We have achieved 98.4% dematerialization, and that literally means that out of the 189 securities on the NSE, 186 are fully dematerialized. So there are only 3, and those 3, hopefully in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we will be able to reconcile or resolve the issues we have with those 3 registrars, because it's just 3 securities.
Records from the SEC show the total amount of unclaimed dividend is now over 80 billion naira. The Commission is therefore pushing the e-dividends initiative to address the problem once and for all. Abiola Ismail, TV360, Lagos.
Global oil prices edged up on Friday on the prospect of talks by exporters about ways to prop up a market grappling with a supply overhang. Brent crude futures were trading at $46.12 per barrel, while U.S. crude stood at $43.70 a barrel. Now, both price benchmarks rose more than 4% on Thursday. Markets were pushed up as Saudi Arabia's Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih said late on Thursday, actually, that oil producers would discuss potential action to stabilize oil prices during a meeting next month in Algeria. A series of blasts across Thailand has targeted tourist towns, killing 4 people and injuring dozens. 4 bombs exploded in the resort town of Hua Hin, while several blasts hit the island of Phuket, a top tourist destination, all within a 24-hour period on Thursday and Friday. No group has said it carried out the attacks, but suspicion is likely to fall on separatist insurgents. The timing is sensitive as Friday is a holiday marking the Queen's birthday. Zambia is still awaiting the first election results from what is expected to be a close contest between President Edgar Lungu and his main rival, who accuses him of mismanaging the economy. Lungu narrowly beat opponent Hakainde Hichilema in a presidential vote nearly 20 months ago to fill the vacancy created by the death of then President Michael Sata. He could be forced into a second-round rerun if he does not get an outright majority this time. Although the final voting tally was yet to be available, electoral officials reported a high turnout in Thursday's elections, where Zambians also voted for members of parliament and councillors. Nigeria's The Tigers battled hard against world number 2 Spain in their men's basketball clash, but still fell by 9 points. The match has been described as one of the most fiercely contested games of the Rio 2016 Olympics. The team lost 96-87. Chamberlain Oguchi was the top scorer for Nigeria with an impressive 24 points, while Pau Gasol scored 18 points for Spain. The Tigers, who lost their first 2 games to Argentina and Lithuania, must now beat Croatia and Brazil in their next 2 matches to reach the quarterfinals. Meanwhile, Nigerians are divided over the country's overall performance at the ongoing Olympic Games. So far, the country is yet to win any medal at the Games, despite going With a contingent of 78 athletes, and some Nigerians say they have little hope Team Nigeria will come home with any medal. However, with the football team performing brilliantly and on track and field events, I should say, just starting, some Nigerians are still optimistic about the country's chances.
Well, I must say it's been quite appalling so far. I personally wasn't having much expectations because seeing how the preparations went, so I wasn't surprised seeing that they were crashing out from all of the competition. So to say that I'm sad or I'm feeling bad or downcast about it, no, that's not the case. As a matter of fact, I would even say they even tried, because I wasn't expecting the performance that the under-23 were pulling out. You know, that was much of a performance. 6 hours before the main match, and then you come and then you do a fight or 5-4. No, that's quite impressive for me. If every other person crashed out, man, thumbs up, you did well. At least you got to go, and then you represented us quite well. For the federal government, of course, they got what they deserve.
Nigeria are performing really good. They are trying, especially on the aspect of football. I think with what I'm seeing on ground, we'll have a lot of things to do. Though we might have crashed out from other sports like the tennis, and some other ones, but on football and athletics, I think Okagbere is performing well. And with what the teams on football are doing, we are going to get there.
Nigeria is only performing extremely good in the area of football, but in the area of basketball and the rest, and I think in tennis, I think the guy that is representing Nigeria is also trying. But in other area, I can see that our performance is somehow really poor. So that is to me.
Nigerian international Odion Ighalo has signed a new 5-year contract with the Premier League side Watford. Ighalo, who had signed a previous 5-year deal in April, will now stay at the club till 2021. The Nigerian initially moved to Watford on loan ahead of the 2014-2015 campaign, but the move was made permanent 3 months after a successful start to life at the Vic. Ighalo opened his Premier League account with Watford's second goal in a 2-2 draw at Everton on the opening day of the season. Now, the 27-year-old finished his debut Premier League season with 14 goals. Well, that's it in news now. We thank you very much for joining us. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.